Hey guys, today we're going to create this object you see here on my screen. And the objective here is to give you basically from a beginner's guide on to mastery of Ansys so that you can create more complicated shape than this. So this tutorial is one in the series that I'll be creating, and hopefully, as I said, is to give you a better overview of how Ansys work and how the software work in general. Also, before I start, I want you to go out there to my other YouTube channel, which is called Beyond College Success, and check out some of the stuff that I'm doing out there, especially if you're a college student. Without further ado, let's crack into this. So, what we have here is the picture, and we're going to go into Ansys and create this model. And the way we're going to do it here is by using features. So, the first thing we do here is to obviously select what we want. So, we have that as geometry, and then we create open design modeler. Once design modeler begins, we have the opportunity to create CAD model like we can do in any other software. So my laptop is a little bit slow here, so you have to bear with me. All right, so we have this platform here. So one of the things that you need to get comfortable as a beginner is the way the planes work in Ansys, right? So here in the tree outline, we have different planes, and it's essentially similar to what you would get in SolidWorks or any other kind of CAD modeling software, but we need to get comfortable with these guys here. So one of the things I need to show you here is that, okay, that's the XY plane. And the way I look at it is that when we are talking about this plane, XY, look at XY here, X, Y. So the plane is in this direction you see here. Now, the way we can do this or make this plane more visible is we go to setting, we go to setting, and inside this grid, like any grid, we need a grid, right? Show into the, so you see the grid of the XY plane. And then we could assign snapping to it such that when we are doing our drawing, it snaps to the grid. And one of the things I always love checking is that the major grid spacing, right? So what that means here is that we have this, I don't know if you could see this box here, but we have some major grid here, and then the inner boxes are the minor grids. Now these are 5 meters, which means that for every major grid we have 5 meters distance. But now I'm going to make some changes because I like using the units, millimeters. I'm going to go here. So now you see how that changes. Now it's telling me that every major grid or every major grid spacing is 10 millimeters, right? How much do I want the inner boxes to be? Well, I want that to be 10 inside, such that now you see how that became smaller. What this essentially means is that the minor grid or the minor little boxes, they are kind of pixels, right? And each box is like 1 millimeter, and then we have 10 of them, which means that 10 of them will make 10 millimeter, right? As we see here, so 10 of them will make 10 millimeter, which is equal to the major grid, and then we have that throughout the plane. So that's all you have to know about grid, right? So that grid, that setting, and then this snap per minor is just how much snapping you want on it. So it's very straightforward. Now, without further ado, let's crack into creating our circular object so that we can extrude, right? So once again, the image here we are trying to create, or the object we're trying to create here is this, and I want to start from here. So I create this guy, then I use my, is it the revolve or the sweep tool? And then I use my revolve tool. So we're going to talk about 3 features basically. And you could do this anyway. And I also want you to understand how planes work specifically here. All right. So without further ado, let's right click, make this normal. Then from this plane, what I want to do is that I want to create my first part, so to speak. So click the circle and make that. All right, that's fantastic. I don't know what I want. Now I need to dimension this. I select dimension, click that, general, click that. Now here I have the opportunity to specify the dimensions here in this bracket, the dimension of it. So I want that to be 60 mil, right? So I'm just going to zoom out a bit. So that's 60 mil, but that's not complete. Select the sketch, right? You use the plus sign or the minus sign to collapse or expand. Yeah, so that's the sketch there. We have that ready. So what we need to do is that we need to create more objects on it. So the way we want to do this is that from the middle, this is where the bolting is going to take place. So I want this to be 10, draw that upward 10. And then in there also, I want to draw one circle, right? I'll come back to dimension that. I want to draw my line here again, 10, 10. All right, so now put my circle, right. Now I can go to my dimension tab, click general. Now I can just dimension this. So you just click the line, and then you dimension it. Here again, once it highlights, you click it and then you drag out. And then you click and then you drag out. This line, you click, you drag out, click, drag out, and then click, boom. So all these are your pretty much your dimension done. Now I can change the dimension here in this area here. So we know that this dimension, every time you select a dimension, it highlights what you're changing. That becomes, I want to make that 3 mil, right? That changes to 3 mil. The second circle, I want to make that 3 mil. Now this is just to allow for the insert of nail on or not or any, sorry, bolt, to bolt it to the wall, because we're talking about lamppost here. Now all these dimensions here, which are the horizontal, vertical, those lines seem perfect for me at least. Now I want to go back to my modeling. Now from this sketch, now we're going to use the extrude tool. From this sketch, we're going to use extrude. Now extrude geometry. What geometry are you trying to extrude? Well, that, select that, and then you apply it. So we have sketch 1 here. Now we just use the F5 or generate to generate this. Hopefully there's no problem. Now one major issue that I didn't do is that I forgot to apply a depth, so the extrusion depth. So we're going to go back in here, edit selection, or right click, edit selection. Here we're going to put 5 mil. So now we can generate again and see how that looks. Perfecto. So that's all we have here. Now quickly, I'm just going to rename this to base, right? It's nice to have this. Now, in light of this plane, what I also like to do is to do some extrusion from the back, right? So the way I mean, so from this plane also, we want to do the sweep. So one of the things that you need for sweeping in every, well, at least for the CAD software, I know you have to do a profile and then you do a part. So now we're going to worry about the profile. So in that plane, click new sketch, goes straight on it. And now back to the same thing. Since our settings is pretty much the same because we're still on the same plane, we can go back to draw, and we just simply want to draw a circle at the back of it from the origin, and we want to dimension it, dimension this to be 15 mil. Now once that is dimensioned, we are good to go. We have the profile set up. Now here's the tricky part, and this is why I think you need to know very much about your coordinate system. Right, so I go to isometric view. Now we just drew our profile. Now we need to draw our part. Now the part has to go from the behind all the way, and then we create that kind of elbow shape, right? Let's look at it. So how we gonna do this now? Well, we draw on the profile. Now we need to select the right plane, so to speak, right? So for me, I can see here that the right plane is gonna be the YZ plane, right? At least if we want to draw that part, it has to be the YZ plane. So what I'll come here, I'll say YZ plane. Wow, okay, now we have the YZ plane. I can now draw my part. So without further ado, go to sketching tab. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to do similar stuff like I did in the XY plane. I'm going to show my 2D grid, snap, right? Same thing, but here it didn't change, so we're going to change it to 10, and that has to be 1. Now we are good to go. What I need to do from here is that from the origin, I want to draw 10. Actually, before I do that, I need to make this normal, right? So I think I drew a line here. So that's 40. And so I'm going to come here. I need to dimension this to be 40 mil, right? That's 40. Cool. And what I also want to do, go back to my draw tool, select my line, and somewhere around here, select the line again, line 2, and not here. From here, I'm going to draw my 40 mil right there. So let's just make sure that that is okay. Dimension, go to the dimension tab, select that, put it down there. So as we notice, 40 mil. Now go back to the draw tool. Now I want to create that kind of elbow shape. What I'm going to do here is that I'm going to use the arc by center. So some center point here, I'm going to select, I hope, and I am going to center point, and there we go. So there we have it. It's pretty much curved right now. So what we need to do is that there's a point here because it's a 3 point, and we just need to make sure that we deselect this point. Otherwise, it's not going to really work for us. So what we need to do is select that point or go back to the sketch. Select that point, delete. So now we have this part going on here. And what we need to do also is that we need to go to our design modeler. So inside design modeler, we have the profile. So I'm going to rename that to profile quickly. And here also, I'm going to rename this to the parts. There we have it. And now I'm going to do my sweep because that's what we do. So what we have here is the profile. Select my profile there, push, and then the part, which we know it is. So I select my part, and then I come here and click, and there we have it. So all I have to do now is to generate. So generate, and we have it there. Very simple. Lastly, in order to create the base, what we need to do is identify which plane and then revolve our sketch around that plane. So as we can see from this image here, we have this plane already set up for us. So what we need to do is just create in that XY plane. And the way I like to show you guys here is that if you look at this coordinate system here, the plane that we're going to revolve around is this YZ plane. So here in the YZ plane, I create a new sketch. Okay. Then we go to the sketch tab. What we need to do is then I'll make this normal to our surface, and then we can create our line. Then we can create the object we want. So I think that has to be 30 centimeters or thereabout. All right. Now I'm going to quickly dimension this. Okay, right, 30. And up has to be, we're going to go a distance of 30 upwards as well. Go a distance 10. Go a distance 20. And then go a distance 20. And then eventually reach home. Right, so that is that part done. So if we go back to our click our sketch, we'll see the outline here. Quickly, I'm just going to rename that as Revolve. Okay, feature cannot be renamed because of something. That is that done. So finally, what we need to do is use our Revolve feature. So the Revolve feature here, Revolve. Now geometry, we use the geometry. That is the geometry. The axis will be, I'm going to just say that middle is the axis, right? And we can see there, we can see that we have an outline already. Then I'm going to hit the generate, and there we have it. So that's that simple. That's the pretty much the lamppost done. If you have any question, finally, I think the next tutorial we're going to move into some other features where we really get you grounded. But really, the main point I want you to understand here, just get comfortable with using the plane. There's nothing really inherently different with this. So just a final recap, what we did is understood what the planes are and then understood how to create a sketch and really paying attention to the details view and the sketching, because that's where you'll be doing most of your drawing. And that's about it. I'll later on I'll be going into other features and also really kind of getting you comfortable with your software. All right, guys, watch part 2 of this and I shall see you later. Thanks, and please subscribe and comment if you so wish. All right, bye.